Happy Wednesday, Poetry Wednesday to be precise. Before we begin, I'm going to start with two non sequiturs. I have this wordsmith, the word a day, that comes in on a regular basis, and I guess it was on the 24th. Something came by that I decided to write down and share with you. And it was by Robert Graves, a poet and a novelist from 1895 to 1985. Um, and his quote is, "There's no money in poetry, but then there's no poetry in money either." Thought that was an interesting observation. And one other thing, I get the New York Times uh, review of what's going on in the world, and I loved this, and you will see why immediately. It's what everybody is. At the end of the report, it goes through the medicine of it, the politics of it, and everything, and gives you an update. But at the end, there's something about what people are doing during this pandemic. And one person said, and I absolutely loved this, that I'm sure you've heard that you're supposed to wash your hands and sing happy birthday, and that's how long it takes. And you get in between here, the junctures of the fingers, you get everything, get under the nails. And if you do it, it takes a little bit of time. And if you sing happy birthday a couple times, that should do it. Well, this woman is doing something even better in my book. She tapes a bit of poetry, a verse, right above the water spigot. And what she does is memorizes a new piece of poetry every time she washes her hands. Boy, I'd like to listen to her mutter. It's probably very interesting. Um, what we're going to do today is Poems for Happiness. It's a small but mighty book that Donna and Mark are carrying. It's introduced by the Reverend Richard Coles, and I really couldn't resist it from a visual standpoint when I looked at the cover. Take a gander. It's two nuns splashing in the water. Hallelujah, happy. And on the back cover are two people in, I remember as a child going to carnivals and events where they just had different kinds of rides. Well, there's a young couple absolutely in ecstasy on the back cover. And the quote is one that I love. It's by that famous person who said an awful lot, Anon, A-N-O-N. "May the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back." Now, Reverend Coles, in his introduction, another reason I liked it, the man has a sense of humor. Do you remember? I swear I didn't read it. That book, 50 Shades of Grey, that everybody was talking about and nobody was admitting to have read it. In his introduction, now this is a priest, mind you, these poems are then 50 Shades of White. They explore the range of the human experience of happiness. As a passing moment that vanishes, the second one settles on it. As the reward for luck and good choices, as the steady contentment which the truly fortunate may find. So I couldn't very well pass up this book to share with you. It's quite a delight. Robert Louis Stevenson, in Happy Thought, says, "The word is so full of a number of things, I'm sure we should all be happy as kings." John Dryden, from 1631 to 1700, "The happy man. Happy the man, and happy he alone. He who can call today his own, he who, secure within, can say, tomorrow, do thy worst, for I have lived today. John Gillespie McGee, Jr., from 1922 and passed in 1941. High Flight. Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter-silvered wings. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds, and done 100 things you have not dreamed of. Wheeled and soared and swung high in the sunlit silence. Hovering there, I've chased the shouting wind along and flung my eager craft through footless halls of air. Up, up the long, delirious, burning blue, and I've topped the wind-swept heights with easy grace, where never lark nor eagle flew. And while the silent, lifting mind I've trod, the high, untranspassed sanctity of space, put out my hand and touched the face of God. Christina Rossetti, from 1830 to 1894. Hurt not living a living thing. Hurt no living thing, ladybird or butterfly, nor moth with dusty wind, nor cricket chirping cheerily, nor grasshopper so light of leap, nor dancing gnat, nor beetle fat, nor harmless worms that creep. Tell that to the fly I just smashed. Whoops. I can read about it, but I don't always do it. William Blake, one of my favorites, from Auguries of Innocence. To see a world in a grain of sand, and heaven in a wild flower, hold infinity in the palm of your hand, and eternity in an hour. From the book of Ecclesiastes. To everything there is a season. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven, a time to be born, and a time to die, a time to plant, and a time to pluck up that which is planted, a time to kill, and a time to heal, a time to break down, and a time to build up, a time to weep, and a time to laugh, a time to mourn, and a time to dance, a time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get, and a time to lose, a time to keep, and a time to cast away, a time to rend, and a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time of war, and a time of peace. Such wisdom. John Keats in Endymion. Keats was from 1795 to 1821. A thing of beauty is a joy forever. Its loveliness increases. It will never pass into nothingness, but still will keep a bower quiet for us, and asleep, full of sweet dreams, and health, and quiet breathing. Therefore on every morrow are we wreathing a flowery band to bind us to the earth, spite of despondence, of the inhuman dearth of noble creatures, of the gloomy days, of all the unhealthy and o'er-darkened ways, made for our searching. Yes, in spite of all, some shape of beauty moves away the pall from our dark spirits. Such the sun, the moon, trees old and young, sprouting a shady boon for simple sheep. And such are daffodils, with the green world they live in, and clear rills that for themselves a cooling covert make gainst the hot season. The mid-forest brake, rich with the sparkling of fair musk-rose blooms, and such too is the grandeur of the dooms we have imagined for the mighty dead, all lovely tales that we have heard or read. An endless fountain of immortal drink pouring unto us from heaven's brink. Alexander Pope, from 1688, he passed in 1744. The quiet life. Happy the man whose wish and care a few paternal acres bound, content to breathe his native air in his own ground, whose herds with milk, whose fields with bread, whose flocks supply him with attire, whose trees in summer yield him shade, in winter fire. Blessed, who can unconcernedly find hours, days, and years slide soft away in health of body, peace of mind, quiet by day, sound sleep by night, study and ease, together mixed sweet recreation, and innocence which most does please with meditation. Thus let me live, unseen, unknown, thus unlamented when let me die. Steal from the world and not a stone tell where I lie. And interesting, this you may remember as a song, as a hymn, but here it is presented as a poem. It was by John Newton, who lived from 1725 to 1807. I'll give it away with the title immediately. Amazing grace. Amazing grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will leave me home. The Lord has promised good to me, his word my hope secures. He will my shield and portion be, as long as life endures. Yea, when this flesh and heart shall fail, and mortal life shall cease, I shall possess within the veil a life of joy and peace. When we've been there 10,000 years, bright shining in the sun, we've no less days to sing God's praise than when we first begun. With or without music, powerful sentiments. My best bud, Walt Whitman, from 1819 to 1892, writes, miracles. What? Who makes much of a miracle? As to me, I know of nothing else but miracles. Whether I walk the streets of Manhattan, or dart my sight over the roofs and houses toward the sky, or wade with naked feet along the beach, just at the edge of the water, or stand under trees in the woods, or talk by day with anyone I love, or sleep in bed at night with anyone I love, or sit at dinner with the rest, or look at strangers opposite me riding in a car, or watch honeybees busy round the hive of a summer forenoon, or animals feeding in the fields, or birds, or the wonderfulness of insects in the air, or the wonderfulness of the sundown, or of stars shining so quiet and bright, or the exquisite, delicate, thin curve of the new moon in spring. These, with the rest, one and all, are to me miracles, the whole referring, yet each distinct and in its place. To me, every hour of the light and dark is a miracle. Every cubic inch of space is a miracle. Every square yard of the surface of the earth is spread with the same. Every foot of the interior swarms with the same. To me, the sea is a continual miracle. The fishes that swim, the rocks, the motion of the waves, the ships with men in them. What stranger miracles are there? Oh, another one. I literally could start at the beginning of this little book and read every poem in it. They're all things I love and want to think about. Desiderata. This is by Max Ehrmann from 1872, and he passed in 1945. Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even the dull and the ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexations to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain and bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not bind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself. Especially, do not feign affection, neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune. But do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be, and whatever your labors and aspirations, in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace with your soul, with all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams. It is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful. Strive to be happy. Oh, and Bobby Burns, did you notice a little trill of the tongue? He's Scottish, man. Wrote the Selkirk Grace. Some have meat and cannot eat. Some cannot eat that want it. But we have meat and we can eat. Say, let the Lord be thankful. So spake Robert Burns from 1759 to 1796. Oh, William Blake, again, from 1757 to 1827, writes spring. Sound the flute, now it's mute. Birds delight, day and night. Nightingale in the dale, lark in sky, merrily, merrily to welcome in the year. Little boy, full of joy, little girl, sweet and small, Cock does crow, so do you. Merry voice, infant noise, merrily, merrily, to welcome in the year. Little lamb, here I am. Come and lick my white neck. Let me pull your soft wool. Let me kiss your soft face. Merrily, merrily, we welcome in the year. Now, Emily Dickinson says, I'll tell you how the sun rose. I'll tell you how the sun rose, a ribbon at a time. The steeples swam in amethyst. The news, like squirrels, ran. The hills untied their bonnets. The bobolinks begun. Then I said softly to myself, that must have been the sun. But how he set, I know not. There seemed a purple stile that little yellow boys and girls were climbing all the while, till when they reached the other side, a dominie in grey put gently up the evening bars and led the flock away. Oh, I'm going to read something slightly out of context, but not quite so much. Included in this book are several other passages which are truly poetry, though the format is prose. And in the context of this book, I read this particular piece and was given hope again. I want to share this hope with you, thanks to this book. I'm going to read you something very short, but something that has echoed through the years. It is the Gettysburg Address. Picture Abraham Lincoln. After a speech of great length, huge crowd, not really intending to speak, and having succinctly composed this to a throng of people waiting at Gettysburg. 77 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now, we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives, that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do this. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate. We cannot consecrate. We cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is for us living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here, dedicated to that great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. That still gives me thrills every time I speak it, every time I hear it. I'm going to be selfish. I'm going to read one of my grandfather's favorite poems. It's by W.E. Henley, from 1849 to 1903. Invictus. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, I thank whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. Under the bludgeonings of chance, my head is bloody, but unbowed. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade, and yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. It matters not how strait the gate, how charged with punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. Now, this clock does have a way of crunching on. I'm going to leave you with something happy. We've had some thoughts about happiness, and this book all but closes with a poem I dearly love. It is by Edward Lear from 1812. He passed in 1888. It's called The Owl and the Pussycat. The owl and the pussycat went to sea in a beautiful pea-green boat. Oh, they took some honey and plenty of money, wrapped up in a 5-pound note. The owl looked up to the stars above and sang to a small guitar. Oh, lovely pussy, oh, pussy, my love, what a beautiful pussy you are, you are, you are. What a beautiful pussy you are. Pussy said to the owl, you elegant fowl, how charmingly sweet you sing. Oh, let us be married. Too long we have tarried, but what shall we do for a ring? They smiled away for a year and a day to the land where the bone tree grows. And there, in a wood, a piggy wood stood, with a ring at the end of his nose, his nose, with a ring at the end of his nose. Dear pig, are you willing to sell for 1 shilling your ring? Said the piggy, I will. So they took it away and were married next day by a turkey who lives on the hill. They dined on mince and slices of quince, which they ate with a runcible spoon, and hand in hand on the edge of the sand, they danced by the light of the moon, the moon, the moon. They danced by the light of the moon. I do encourage you to take a look at Poems for Happiness. I think once you've picked it up, you'll be a much more joyful person. Thank you so much for sharing Poetry Wednesday here at Story and Song. And know that again on Friday, we'll be visiting with C.S. Lewis and his words of wisdom. Thank you for coming.